Have you ever looked at something really small, something you use pretty much every day, and just wondered about the huge industry sort of humming away beneath it? Well, today, that's exactly what we're doing. We're diving deep into what seems like just a tiny accessory, but is actually this booming global thing, the AirPods Protective Case Market. Our mission today, pretty simple, really. We want to cut through the numbers, the data, and just uncover the fascinating dynamics behind these little guardians for your earbuds. We want to understand what's really fueling their, well, frankly, explosive growth and look at the big shifts happening across different parts of the world. Think of this as your shortcut, yeah, to understanding a niche market that's, well, it's anything but small.
And just so you know where we're getting this from, our insights for this deep dive, they're drawn straight from a pretty detailed market report by Cognitive Market Research.
Yeah.
So that gives us a really solid data-backed foundation to, understand what's going on.
Right. So get ready to maybe rethink what you thought you knew about consumer trends, because I think this deep dive is going to offer up some genuine aha moments about why seemingly simple things can become, well, huge economic drivers.
Okay, let's start with the big picture then, because the scale here is genuinely pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Just in 2021, right? The global market for these AirPods cases was valued at, get this, 563.274 million.
Yeah, 563 million. And honestly, that's just where the story starts, the projections. They're even more striking. We're talking about a market expected to hit nearly $700 million, $692.1 million to be exact by 2025.
Okay.
And then a really incredible jump to over $1 billion, 1,044.88 million. That's by 2033.
Wow, $1 billion.
Yeah. And to put that in perspective, it represents a compound annual growth rate, CAGR, of over 5%, 5.284% actually over the forecast period. That's a really strong, sustained growth path for what a lot of people probably just see as a simple accessory. Okay. Let's unpack this a bit. $1 billion market for cases. That's remarkable. What factors are really pushing these numbers up so high? What's, fueling this kind of growth for something that just protects your earbuds?
What's fascinating here, I think, is how the market growth isn't just about the cases themselves, right? It taps into these much broader consumer trends. So first, there's the undeniable accelerating global adoption of wireless earbuds. Just more AirPods out there means more demand for cases. Simple as that.
Makes sense.
But beyond that, we're seeing this really powerful trend towards lifestyle personalization. People want their tech, even their earbuds, to reflect who they are. Their style, maybe their mood. A case is a pretty easy, relatively cheap way to do that.
Yeah, I see that.
And then maybe most fundamentally, there's just this rising demand for device safety. I mean, AirPods aren't cheap, right? There's significant investment for a lot of people. So protecting that investment from drops, scratches, maybe losing them, that's a top priority. It's really a mix of practicality, protection, and personal expression.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, who hasn't had that mini heart attack when their AirPod case slips, right? So, okay, with those drivers clear, here's where it gets really interesting. Let's do that regional deep dive. Let's see where the action is. And you mentioned Asia Pacific. APAC is really showing the most momentum.
Absolutely. The growth story in APAC is genuinely compelling. The region has already jumped from $213.481 million back in 2023.
Wow.
It projected $424.223 million by 2033.
Wow, that's almost double.
Exactly. It's practically doubling in, a little over a decade. And this translates to the highest regional CAGR we're seeing, anywhere 5.9%.
Yep.
Now, within APAC, China is still the largest market in terms of sheer volume. But here's what's really remarkable. India is actually outpacing China in its growth rate for this specific product.
Really? Faster than China?
Yeah. India is surging ahead with a 6.735% COGR. China's still strong, mind you, a robust 6.106%. But India's growth is faster. It really highlights, a rapidly expanding consumer base there, increasing disposable income, people eager to adopt and personalize their tech. And we're also seeing significant, really robust growth across other places too. Japan, South Korea, Australia, and throughout Southeast Asia as well, which has a strong CAGR itself, all adding up to APAC's leading position.
That's a really striking detail about India. Does that suggest maybe a different market entry strategy for companies looking at APAC, like maybe more focus on value or perhaps even more vibrant personalization options there?
Exactly. That's a great point. It really points to a dynamic where, companies can't just use a one-size-fits-all approach across the whole region. India's rapid acceleration suggests, a real keenness for adopting new tech accessories and potentially a consumer base that's highly receptive to both protection and style right from the start.
Interesting. Okay, so even with APAC really rocketing up, North America is still a truly dominant force, right? Holding a big piece of the pie.
That's right, yeah. While APAC is growing faster in percentage terms, North America definitely maintains its position as a, let's say, mature but still steadily expanding market. Its revenue trajectory, it climbs from $147.01 million in 2021
Mm-hmm.
to a projected $252.862 million by 2033. That reflects a consistent CAGR of 4.623%.
Still solid growth.
Absolutely. And the United States is, well, by far the largest contributor within North America, still the stronghold. But we also see steady and, robust market penetration across Canada and Mexico too. It reinforces that broad, consistent demand across the whole continent.
Right. And what about Europe? Is the European market keeping pace with these other giants?
Europe is definitely steady and strong. Yeah. Its market revenue grew from about $114.9 million in 2021
Okay.
to a forecasted $200.6 million, roughly, by 2033. That gives it a solid CGR of 4.814%. You see key contributors like Germany and the United Kingdom showing very strong sustained growth. The UK actually has a really solid 5.185% CGIR.
Oh, interesting. Higher than the US rate.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
And other major economies like France, Italy, Spain, they also show consistent expansion. It's interesting, though, while the overall trend is definitely positive, some of the smaller markets like Luxembourg, for instance, show a more moderate pace. It has the lowest regional CGR, actually. So it illustrates a bit of a varied landscape across Europe, but one that's still, unequivocally growing.
Okay, so we've looked at the big established players, North America and Europe, and the emerging powerhouse of APAC. What about the truly emerging markets? What opportunities do they present? Are we seeing growth taking hold in places like South America, the Middle East, Africa?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, these emerging markets are definitely showing some exciting and significant potential for future growth. Definitely. Take South America. The market there is projected to reach over $74 million by 2033. Brazil's leading the charge.
Right.
But Argentina is also showing a particularly strong CAGR, over 6% actually.
Yeah.
6.087%. It really indicates a rapidly developing appetite for these kinds of accessories. Chile's growing nicely too. Then, moving over to the Middle East, it's set to nearly double in value by 2033, reaching over $52 million. The UAE really stands out there. Impressive growth rate, again, over 6%, 6.072% CAGR. Shows a strong desire for personal tech goodies in that region.
Mm-hmm.
And Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Qatar, they're also key markets contributing to that expansion.
Yeah.
And finally, Africa. Now, it's currently the smallest regional market, starting at about $21.4 million in 2021, but it's consistently showing demand growth. It's projected to reach over $40 million by 2033. It's a 4.9% CAGR. We're seeing strong adoption, especially from urban centers across the continent.
Mm.
As wearable tech and accessories just become more widespread. South Africa is currently leading that region. So yeah, these regions really represent vital new frontiers for market expansion, driven by, increasing smartphone use and a growing middle class.
Okay, wow. That's a truly global picture then. So let's try and connect the dots. What does this all mean for you, the listener? How does the story of the simple AirPods case connect to the bigger picture?
Yeah, I think if we connect all this back, the key insight really is that this seemingly niche market for uh, AirPods protective cases is not just growing, it's actively thriving across all regions. It demonstrates this truly global shift in consumer habits. And while, yes, Asia-Pacific is undeniably the fastest growing, the most dynamic market right now, North America and Europe are still maintaining very strong positions. And crucially, these emerging markets, South America, Middle East, Africa, they're presenting significant expanding opportunities. It really highlights, I think, a universal and increasing value consumers place on both protecting our tech, which is getting more expensive,
Yeah.
and also that desire to personalize our devices, to make them reflect our unique styles. So maybe this raises an important question for you, for the listener, to think about. How does the rapid growth of what seems like a small everyday accessory market like these AirPods cases, how does that reflect deeper, broader global economic trends? And what does it say about the evolving landscape of consumer behavior and the increasing value we clearly place on both, usefulness and self-expression in our increasingly digital lives?
That's a really powerful point to end on. It just goes to show, doesn't it? If you look closely enough, even the smallest details in our daily lives, like, yeah, a colorful case for your earbuds can hold some really surprising insights into these massive market forces and our continually evolving desires as consumers. Something to keep observing.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take your sources, Really dig into them and pull out the key insights so you get a shortcut to being genuinely well-informed. Today we're jumping into, well, what seems like a pretty niche topic at first glance, but it's actually surprisingly dynamic. We're talking about the AirPods Protective Case Market. Our mission, as always, is to unpack the sources you've given us, find those crucial nuggets, and give you a really clear picture of this pretty trendy and fast-moving accessory segment. Because it's more than just shielding a gadget. It's actually a window into consumer behavior, market stuff, and that whole intersection of tech, fashion, even sustainability these days. So let's dive in.
Yeah, it's really interesting how something so, well, specific, like an AirPods case, actually tells you a lot about broader consumer trends. It's not just, oh, I don't want to break my expensive thing. It shows how everyday tech, like your earbuds, has become a seriously high-value asset. And that shifts how people think, right?
Yeah.
It moves from just utility to preserving the investment. People are even thinking about resale value.
Resale value for AirPods.
Yeah, absolutely. So the case isn't just a case anymore. It's kind of a strategic safeguard for that value. And a lot of this is driven, obviously, by the huge boom in wireless audio. Plus, you've got this big demand for accessories that aren't just functional. They've got to look good, too, especially with, Gen Z urban smartphone users.
That's a really good point about them being high-value assets.
Yeah.
So, okay, beyond just protecting them, what else is really pushing people to buy these cases? Like, what are the deeper needs, maybe psychological or social, that are getting met here?
Well, here's the big shift, I think. Cases used to be just about protection, right? Now they're really tools for personal branding.
Personal branding.
And
With an AirPods case.
yeah, it's not just about keeping your tech safe. It's about showing who you are. The sources really hammer this home, this focus on personalization, on aesthetics. People aren't just buying for utility. They want self-expression. They want custom designs, bright colors, fashion-forward stuff. In brands, they're totally jumping on this. You see limited edition collections, collaborations. It helps them stand out in what's become a very visual market.
And that ties into what you said earlier, that growing awareness about device longevity, this idea that people want to protect what they paid for, maybe even thinking ahead.
Precisely. Yeah. Users are definitely more conscious of their tech as an investment and, crucially, the potential resale value. A decent case, it helps extend the life of the AirPods, right? Reduces the risk of scratches, drops, all that physical damage. And that simple fact drives consistent market growth because more people are proactively looking for durable accessories.
Okay, so we've clearly got the drivers, pin down protection, making it personal, keeping it working longer. But, any market that grows this fast usually runs into some problems, some headwinds. What are the main roadblocks showing up in the AirPods case world?
Yeah, that's a good question because it's not all smooth sailing despite the growth. One of the biggest issues is just market saturation and low differentiation.
Meaning too many similar products.
Exactly. There's just been this flood of generic cases all offering pretty much the same features, and that leads to really intense competition, lots of price cutting.
Which hurts profits, I imagine.
Absolutely. It causes margin erosion, basically. Companies make less money on each sale. And that's especially tough for, smaller brands or new ones trying to get a foothold.
Okay, so intense competition, hard to stand out. That sounds tough. What are the sort of knock-on effects of this saturation, like for pricing or even the quality of what's out there?
Well, another big restraint tied into that is the rise of counterfeit and just low-quality products.
This is the fakes.
Yeah. These substandard cases, they often don't actually protect anything or they don't fit right. And worse, they can really damage customer trust. It can even tarnish the reputation of the legitimate manufacturers,
Yeah.
So quality and authenticity becomes super critical for the trusted brands. Product integrity is key.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, thinking about Apple's huge role here, AirPods dominate the wireless earbud space. How does the case market deal with being so tied to one massive tech company? What does that reliance mean?
Oh, it's a huge factor. Absolutely massive. The market's growth is basically pegged to whatever Apple decides to do next because, most of these cases are designed only for AirPods models.
Right. They won't fit other brands.
Exactly. So there's very little compatibility with other wireless earbuds. And that really limits the potential for cross-platform growth, for diversification. It essentially ties the fate of this entire accessory market directly to Apple's product cycles and innovations.
Sounds like a potentially tricky spot for some businesses. But okay, even in really competitive markets, there's always innovation, right? Are there any big trends coming up that are actually changing things, maybe turning some of these challenges into opportunities?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Despite those hurdles, the market is being reshaped by some pretty powerful and actually exciting trends. Probably the biggest one leading the charge is integration with MagSafe and wireless charging.
Ah, convenience.
Totally. Consumers just don't want the hassle of taking their AirPods out of the case just to charge them anymore.
Makes sense. So for anyone maybe not super familiar, how does MagSafe actually work with these cases?
So, MagSafe on Apple devices, it's basically a system of magnets. It lets accessories snap on perfectly and helps with efficient wireless charging. For AirPods cases, this means the case itself can now magnetically click onto a MagSafe charger. Gives you a really quick, hassle-free power-up without ever needing to pop the AirPods out of the protective shell.
Gotcha.
And cases that are designed with this tech in mind, that support this smooth charging, they're really setting a new standard for product design now.
It's pretty amazing how fast environmental awareness is becoming like table stakes, not just a nice to have, even for a small accessory. Is this trend stronger in certain places or with certain groups of people?
Yeah, sustainability is making huge waves here too. We're seeing a definite rise in cases made from biodegradable materials, recycled stuff, even vegan leather alternatives. And eco-conscious buyers, especially in places like North America and Europe, they are increasingly choosing products that align with those values.
So brands are noticing this pull?
Definitely. Brands that lean into being environmentally responsible are seeing their market share grow. It really shows a strong consumer demand for, ethical production.
Okay, and that last trend you mentioned earlier, that mix of fashion and tech, that sounds really interesting. It feels like these cases are going way beyond their original job, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of how phone cases went from just protection to being full-on fashion statements.
hmm
Are these like high-end luxury collaborations actually reaching a lot of people, or are they still pretty niche?
It really is like the phone case evolution, yeah. And this rise of designer and branded collaborations is seriously blending fashion with tech. You've got luxury fashion houses, well-known accessory makers teaming up with tech companies to launch these exclusive AirPods case lines. Now, sure, these collabs definitely hit hard with the premium fashion-forward crowd, people who see every accessory as part of their identity.
Right, the statement piece idea.
Exactly. But their visibility, just seeing them out there, it also helps normalize the whole idea of AirPods cases as fashion items. And that can potentially trickle down and influence mainstream designs over time.
Wow. Okay, so just to sort of wrap things up, this deep dive really shows that the AirPods Protective Case Market is, well, it's thriving. It sits right at that crossroads of needing something useful, wanting something personal, and fitting into a lifestyle. And the growth just keeps getting pushed by new ideas and what consumers are looking for.
Indeed. Yeah, it's a perfect little case study, really, of how our expensive gadgets are turning into canvases for us to express ourselves. And you see how our buying choices increasingly reflect our values, too, whether that's wanting seamless tech like MagSafe or caring about the environmental impact.
Yeah, it really hits home that even in the smallest accessories, like an AirPods case, there's this huge story unfolding about how we live with technology and how we show our identity. It really makes you think, doesn't it? What other seemingly simple products do you own that might be telling a similar kind of complex story about modern consumer culture? Something to chew on.